good? All right, sounds good. Ready on the left, ready on the right? All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular city council meeting for October 18th, 2022. My name is Mark Clark, the mayor. I'll call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Clark,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Castle,
Here.
Councilmember Spear,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson,
Present.
Councilmember Neal,
Present.
Councilmember Mortensen,
Here.
Councilmember Providence.
Present. All right. Next item on the agenda, audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address City Council on any item that is not of a public hearing or on the agenda this evening? If so, please step forward. None online? All right. Seeing none, moving on. Next item on the agenda, approval of the agenda. Madam Clerk, is there any changes to the agenda?
No.
No? I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the agenda. I second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda, consent agenda. Item number 1, approval of the October 4th, 2022 City Council meeting minutes. Entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda. I second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda, new business. Item number 2, consideration of approval of the Moffett Flats LLC, Moffett Glass Development Agreement for the project located at 3511 West Frontage Road, and we will hear from staff.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. The last step in the land use review approval process for the Moffett Glass project there at 3511 West Frontage Road is the development agreement that is in front of you. And I'll turn this discussion over to Ann Bess Johnson, Community Development Director, to discuss what's in it.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Randy, and members of City Council. So you heard this land use approval back in July, if you can believe it was just that recent ago. And this is a special use permit, and the applicant is proposing development inclusive of new fencing, taking down landscaping, and there's also drainage improvements. So in your packet this evening, in your agenda memo, there is an attached development agreement, but just from a high level perspective, staff did meet with the applicant and their representatives on site to make a determination on logical plant material proposed for the site while meeting the intent of that 85 overlay district. So we looked at what was existing, where the infill might need to occur, and we really worked hard with the applicant and our operations team to determine that meeting the intent while being logical with the amount of landscaping. So in your packets, the standard warranty requirement of 115%, and then the post-release retention requirement of 15% are proposed. That's standard for all development agreements in the city. The warranty period will be for 3 years, and then the performance guarantee is a letter of credit which has been provided to the city, and it's dated October 5th, 2022. I'm mistaken, the warranty period is 2 years, but then the performance guarantee is for, 3 years. The developer is responsible for removal of non-conforming fencing materials, landscaping and irrigation improvements, and stormwater infrastructure. I am available to answer any questions that you have tonight, and the applicant's representative is here if you have any questions of the applicant.
Great, thank you. Is there any questions of staff and or the applicant from council?
I have none.
I have no.
No, I don't have any.
All right, it's pretty straightforward to me, so I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the development agreement for Moffett Glass located at 3511 West Frontage Road and authorize the mayor to sign the development agreement.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the development agreement for Moffett Glass located at 3511 West Frontage Road and to authorize the mayor to sign the development agreement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Moving on, item number 3, public hearing, consideration of resolution number 31-2022 to annex 2 parcels of land known as the Mountain Cement annexation into the city of Evans and consideration of ordinance number 784-22 to zone the parcels to industrial I3 if annexed to the city. Parcel numbers 1057-03-400001 and 1057-03-400002. And I will open the public hearing and we will hear from staff.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is the second step in what is proposed as a Mountain Cement annexation. What is before you this evening is a concurrent ordinance and a resolution that would move forward with the consideration of the annexation and the zoning for this parcel. Turn it over to Ann Bess Johnson for more discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Reedy, Mayor Clark, and members of City Council. So this project is located on the west side of the extension of 47th Avenue south of the river. It is just immediately west of the Mountain Tracks development. Mountain Tracks is this area right here, and this is proposed to be Mountain Cement. There's this sliver of a property that runs along the south property line, and then this is a larger property right there. In our master plan that was just recently adopted, this entire area is envisioned to be future industrial uses. So it is an industrial use. It does comply with the vision for that future area through our master planning process. The proposed condition is, tonight we're really focused on the annexation and zoning. We're not necessarily focused on the end use, but I am going to provide you with some information just so you can get an idea of what could be proposed. They've not submitted a site plan application yet, but these are just some precedent images that could give you an idea of what it could look like. So they are located along rail. The rail would come off onto the site, and then the cement would be unloaded and put into the silos there, and then the truck traffic would go out onto 47th Avenue to their distribution sites. And the applicant has more information regarding the process of the proposed facility, but again, we're just really talking about zoning tonight. And the proposed zone is I3, or Industrial 3, which is the same as what's across the street at Mountain Tracks. So when we're talking about the process, when an application comes into the city for annexation and concurrent zoning, we have lots of pre-application meetings. First of all, we need to determine, is it compatible with the future land use map? Is the proposed use compatible with the zone district that they're proposing? And then is that zone district and the end use compatible with what is in our land use code as well as in our comprehensive or our master plan and the future land use map? Any industrial user or commercial user is strongly encouraged to have a surrounding property owner meeting. This applicant did do that, and they can discuss the outcome of that meeting if you so choose to want those questions answered. We also talked about the processing standards, the review criteria, application requirements, all of that during the pre-application meeting. Several members of the Evans staff are there. The Fire Protection District is also at those pre-application meetings, as is our building official, just so that we can address any items that might be a concern or just a heads up to the applicant. Then the application is submitted and it is processed, and there are requirements outlined in the code on how an application for an annexation and change of zone are to be processed. Public notice is required. Surrounding property owners were noticed on August 25th. There was notice that was published in the Greeley Tribune on August 31st, and it was then published 4 weeks prior to tonight's hearing because it was an annexation. And then a sign was posted on the property on August 4th. And these all are above and beyond what is required in our code. We tried to post things as early as we could. This was also continued from a previous meeting as well, so that the applicant could give notice to mineral owners. Then on public hearings, Planning Commission heard the case. They can hear a change of zone request before the property is annexed into the city and make a recommendation that should council determine that it is appropriate to annex, that their recommendation for the change of zone would be included in your packets, and that was included in your packet. And then tonight is the first reading for the change of zone, and then because it is a legislative issue, then it will come before you with a second hearing on November 1st. So tonight we are considering annexation and change of zone, and the criteria for approval. So this is our box that we stay in with staff when we're considering a change of zone application. These are the criteria that need to be met. Staff did determine after reviewing the referral responses, the land use code, that the application materials did meet the criteria for approval for a change of zone and annexation into the city of Evans. Planning Commission then again voted favorably to move this to you for the change of zone request to I3 after they heard public testimony, reviewed staff comments, the criteria for approval, and the application materials. So at this point in time, it concludes staff's formal presentation. I am available to answer any questions that you may have, and I know the applicant is also here and is prepared to make a brief presentation.
All right, thank you. If the applicant is here, if you would like to come up and make your brief presentation.
At the podium, thank you.
So my name is Edward Williams. I'm with Eagle Materials in Dallas, Texas, the parent company for Mountain Cement. With me today is also Clint Wilkerson from the Mountain Cement Company, which is located in Laramie, Wyoming, and Melanie Fostian from Northern Engineering, our local guide through the process, if you will, and also doing a lot of the civil work on site. I know we want to keep this focused on the zoning, but as someone who's coming to meet you guys for the first time, I want to make sure that you understand who you're dealing with. So I've given you some information as to who Eagle Materials is and what Mountain Cement has been to this area throughout their existence. We've been serving the Denver markets, north and south, all around from a terminal in that location, as well as the northern Colorado market directly from our Laramie, Wyoming facility for many years. Eagle Materials is a big company, publicly traded company, with multiple cement plants, wallboard plants, slag cement plants around the country. Again, trying to keep that brief. This was the letter that went out to the community, the results of the meeting. We had about 8 participants come out. We did hear some comments from the community. We've heard additional comments at the Zoning Commission meeting, and we've tried to address those, and we are certainly open to more dialogue to address those in the future. As was mentioned, this is the proposed location, the land use. I think that's all been covered very clearly. If you have questions, I'm certainly here to answer. But I think this is covered completely in the staff report. As was mentioned, this is sort of a site overlay on the property that shows that most of our activities are going to be focused up near the rail in our proposed plan. I think Ann did a very good job of describing what the project was all about. And in the interest of keeping it short, I can leave it at that, and we can take questions if you have any for me.
All right, thank you. Is there any questions of the applicant and or staff regarding the annexation or the change of zone?
I have an annexation question.
Okay.
Why are you seeking annexation with the city of Evans? And in this question, it would be, why not stay with the county or go to LaSalle?
Well, we have, perhaps Melanie can answer most of those questions with her local knowledge, but the annexation portion, we have certain requirements that we're going to have to do in order to zone this into an industrial zone, which I think the county cannot handle, as well as we have variances that would come with the future installation. If you remember the scene, the visual representation of what was on site, there are silos in there that exceed the height restriction, and that'll come at a future date that will address that with a variance request.
Any other questions?
Good evening. The 8 individuals that showed up, what was some of the feedback, the good, positive, negative feedbacks you got from them, sir?
Well, we heard comments about the road, of course, the fact that the road is not maintained to their liking. We heard comments that there was potentially inadequate water in the area. I think not understanding our process, we don't require any water in there more than just human services, if you will. We don't have any processed water requirement, so it's just restroom use. And I think that their understanding was that we might require more. Other than that, the meeting went, I think more of the complaint was about, also another thing that was mentioned was the slow response time for police and fire. So with regard to those comments, we couldn't really respond to those things. They were more things they needed to be brought to the city. So it was difficult for us to really comment to them and give them any kind of response.
Okay, and another question. What grade concrete are you planning to produce? And
We're not asking questions about
Okay.
what they're, just strictly to the annexation.
my apologies.
All right. Any other questions regarding the annexation and or zoning?
Yes, and can we go back to the slide of the requirements?
The criteria for approval?
Yes.
Councilman Neal?
Okay, I have some concerns about letter E and letter F, because this originally, when Mountain Tracks was originally annexed in 2004, I believe you call it 47th Avenue now, was supposed to have been paved. So I can see why, and we've already had some citizens come in from the county or LaSalle and attempt to get that addressed by this council. So I do have concerns about those two items, Mark.
Any other questions?
May I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
So, and this is just in regards to the area, the people that sold the land, but they still have that house there, where's the next closest residence? Just general idea?
It'll be just to the south.
To the south? Okay.
And I believe this is an auctioneer's yard here, and so I believe there's a residential structure here, there's residential right here. But this is non-residential, this is Envirotech,
Okay,
and then there are residential properties right here.
okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other? I do actually have a question. Correct me if I'm wrong, part of that land, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe this is another annexation that we were talking about, part of the land was already in Evans and part of it was in the county, right? And we're just making it, or is this for a different annexation, I'm thinking?
Mayor Clark, both parcels are in unincorporated Weld
Okay.
County.
Sounds good. All right, thank you. Any other additional questions?
Admin.
All right. Because this is a public hearing, if there's anybody in the audience that wishes to come up and address the council in favor of this, please come up to the podium and
Thank you.
state your name, address, and
Good evening. Anya Walter, 23151 County Road 33. We're the tiny little triangle that's not included in your annexation. I'd just like to state that my family and I strongly oppose the proposed rezoning and development of the property adjacent to ours. Many reasons, the health and safety of my family and my animals being one. The proposed rezoning would drive additional traffic to this road. The driveway for their proposed development is on our fence line. Speaking to the additional traffic, they proposed 100 trucks or so a day from 4 a.m. to 6 p.m. My daughter rides the bus into LaSalle. The bus comes at 6:30 a.m. All of that semi-traffic, the bus comes in the dark most of the school year. More traffic, potential for more accidents. I don't want my child subjected to that. The road infrastructure, as we mentioned at the last meeting, not suitable for additional traffic. It was mentioned at the last meeting, the zoning hearing, that the bridge from from Highway 394 onto County Road 33 is not suitable for semi-traffic. Yet I see semis there crossing that bridge daily. What is Evans gonna do about that in regards to, are you gonna patrol? Are you gonna put signage? Those types of things. We purchased this home in June with the intent of this being our forever home. We are familiar with the area. We grew up nearby, my in-laws are half a mile away. The proposed development will negatively impact our plans for forever. Sorry, I'm emotional. Since the address of the home is LaSalle, we could not have done our due diligence to find out about this prior to purchasing. We checked with LaSalle. LaSalle said there's nothing. We checked with Weld County. They claim to know nothing about this. So, we're going into this a little frustrated. The zoning change will have impact to our property values with an estimation of 12 to 30% loss in valuation of our home. And then while on the topic, gotta make it bigger and more, I would like to encourage you to learn about spot zoning. I'll quote an article from the Greeley Tribune published May 5th, 2018. It states, spot zoning refers to a zone change that benefits a single landowner without regard to surrounding landowners. It could be illegal, in other words, to zone a piece of land for heavy industrial use, such as a gas plant, when all the land around it is zoned for residential. Those uses don't mix well. That was a direct quote from the article. Also noted in that same article, Johnstown residents near the Martin Marietta asphalt plant considered the county commissioner's approval of that plant de facto spot zoning. Those residents sued the Weld County Board of Commissioners and won, blocking that already completed plant from operation. It's my belief that this is the very same situation is occurring here, rezoning a portion of the land while everything else remains agricultural. It fits the definition of spot zoning. I appreciate you guys' time.
Great, thank you. If there's anybody in the audience that's, again, is in favor of speaking towards this, please come up. Seeing none, and anybody against, please step forward.
Additionally, I'd like to note
Please state your name and.
sorry, 8-year-old Walter, 231 County Road 33, or 23151 County Road 33. I want to know what they're going to do with noise control, dust control, sound, semis running all day long, stuff like that. Are they going to have ordinances against them prolonged running in their driveways, stuff like that? Because this literally backs up to my property, stuff like that. Is it allowed? What are they gonna do when the tracks are blocked? Are they gonna notify the EMS or anything like that? Is the city going to offer more patrols for officers, stuff like that? We've never seen a cop come up and down our road, yet we're zoned Evans. The road is zoned Evans. There's zero. We just had the fire department over there. It was LaSalle Fire, not Evans. Traffic, speeding, we already have cars blazing up and down our road. Our speed limit is 35. I guarantee you 65 mile an hour cars up and down our road all day long. that's now. What's it gonna be later? And that's all I have for the moment.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Thank you for your time today, council members. My name is Kelly Matthews. I'm a local realtor. My office is located at 112 East South First Street in Johnstown. I'm speaking tonight in support of my clients, Anya and Adriel Walter. They purchased 23151 County Road 33 in LaSalle on June 10th of this year. This property was listed for sale by the previous owner on April 25th after he discovered there were plans to build a Mountain Cement facility. This proposed zoning change directly impacts my clients' property values and their quality of life. Their property is directly adjacent in that little mustache-shaped square that is right next to the entryway to Mountain Cement's proposed property. The previous owner did not disclose to my clients that he knew of these plans, even though he had spoken to Northern Engineering and told them he would not be an impediment to their annexation, zoning changes, and land use plan. Even though he received a written notice of the public hearing on May 17th, which was a full 3 weeks prior to our closing date. In that time, he had had discussions with Northern Engineering, Mountain Cement, and he, not being an impediment was true because he was selling the property. So he wouldn't be an impediment, but he did not share that he was selling the property with Northern Engineering as far as we know. And he did not disclose to my clients that he was selling the property for that reason. It's well known that industrial sites can cause several negative externalities such as traffic noise, disturbance, degradation of roadways, traffic congestion, health and safety concerned, as well as obstruction of view, which is some of the primary reasons that my clients purchased this property was the beautiful mountain view. Mountain Cement has stated at the Planning Commission that they will be requesting a height variance because of the silo, and stated there will be heavy semi-truck traffic on the unpaved county road. Like you said, that road was supposed to be paved many, many years ago and is still not paved. So it could be another decade before it gets paved. And from their own calculations, they anticipate that 34 rail cars will be incoming and outgoing every other day on this property. And according to their stated load per year, that means approximately 30 semi-trucks per day, which would be equivalent to one truck every 15 minutes, 4 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, February through October. Because of the bridge that is to the north, they cannot cross over the bridge because it is not rated for truck traffic. So they must turn south and drive past my client's home every single time they enter and exit that property. Several studies have revealed that distance to an industrial site has a statistically significant negative effect on the value of residential properties. I'll keep my time short. I have done lengthy real estate comparisons, comparable properties near industrial sites in northern Colorado over the last year. And what the comps show, which I will leave with staff for you to review later if you like, is that there's an estimated loss from 12% to 28 to 30% in property value when it abuts or is adjacent to an industrial site when it's a residential home. There are 8 homeowners that surround this property, and I agree that I feel this would be spot zoning if that little mustache and that little slice were the only things that were not considered industrial in that entire area. Thank you for your time. I can answer any questions, and I can leave the data with staff if you like.
Thank you. Again, because this is a public hearing, if there's anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor or against this, please come up to the podium. And assuming none online?
No.
Seeing that there's no additional comments, I will close the public hearing and hear any comments from council regarding annexation and or the zoning.
Well,
Go ahead.
I guess I'll start. We're finished, doesn't matter. You know, I was not involved in the original annexation. That's pre my time being involved in city government, but it was not pre my time being here in the city of Evans. I come from you guys know, I come from the batch of people that don't believe that we should be annexing anything on the south side of the river. LaSalle should be responsible for that. I also have previously, and it's not these people, but previous owners, I've had friends out in this area. I have driven this area quite considerable. I understand what their issues are. I still have unpaved roads that have been promised to be paved on the east side of Evans, so I don't think they'll be paved anytime soon either. But I am totally against it, and I feel bad for the residents that are there, and for those of you that are for it, I would have you guys maybe push the developer then, if it goes through, to give hefty buyouts on anybody's property that doesn't want to be there anymore. And I feel bad for the people that live there, I do. So I'm totally against it.
Any other additional questions or comments, sorry?
I've already expressed my concerns. I've always been concerned about this from 2004 with the bridge and the truck traffic that was going to be generated initially by this proposed ethanol plant there. I am well aware that of the plans back then about gravel mining and doing some of these things like asphalt plants and concrete type plants, production plants there on the south side of the river. So it's not unfamiliar with to me that this proposal is finally coming to fruition.
Well, I will make my comment. While I do, understand, and I do understand where the people that spoke against this are coming from, and I share their concerns as well. I look at it from a different perspective as well. It's going to go there, unfortunately, whether it's in Evans, LaSalle, or stays in the county. It's going to go there. It's and I would hope that by it possibly coming into Evans, that we will be able to address some of the concerns, and the developer will be able to address some of the concerns that the residents in that area have. And I would hope that we, if this goes through, would do our due diligence to ensure that those questions and concerns are addressed. For us, I look at it as, it's possible it's a business coming to Evans. It's not going to go to the county, and it's not going to go to a neighboring community. But as far as the annexation is concerned, I think that's a great area for Evans to have as part of our, as our growth area. So that's where I stand on that. But any other?
Well, I have an additional concern if Evans is going to have to, obviously Evans is going to have to eventually address the bridge issue there and the paving. What about the railroad? Are they going to need to upgrade their intersection there with the road?
That would be discussion.
That's another concern.
Any other additional comments?
I just want to say, I don't care if it's this project or another project. I mean, you could build the Taj Mahal south of the river. I don't think Evans can service those areas any better than they service the east side of town. So that's why I vote no on all of the annexation.
Anyone else?
I think my struggle, I have no issues in particular with the annexation. I'm in favor of development here. I think that's great. I do have concerns with the land use. So I'm struggling there a little bit, and I think the two have to be married together. I don't think it's in my opinion, I don't think it's fair to approve the annexation and then deny land use, because that does a disservice to you all if you're annexed in, but we won't support that development. So that's where I'm struggling, because I don't know how to, that's a struggle for me.
Councilmember Morrison?
I know there's not much we can do with that property, especially since the flood and, things like that. They built one of the biggest concrete plants in the country in Missouri, and my dad did the electric work on it. I've grown up near them. I've experienced, maybe not right in my back door, I'll admit, but, yes, I've seen the traffic. But I think about the one too, if you guys think about the one on 402, as we're going to Loveland, it's right there on the corner. There's land all around it. There's a house catty corner from it. I'm not saying that makes the house valuable or not. That's not my area of expertise. But even though they do have truck traffic, yeah, the roads are paved too. I know that helps. It's just, I don't see, just from an outsider's point of view, a lot of issues with that. I do wish the person that had sold their house had told the people buying. He should have. That's on him to get that to them, and that was not right in my opinion. But with us not being able to do much else in that area, that's my thing of why wouldn't we allow that there? It's hard.
Right. I understand. Yeah. Any other additional comments?
I also agree with a lot that was already said. For me, it's, I do agree with the annexation and the zoning component. I think, I do empathize with the situation with the home. I do also think that, disclosures definitely were needed during that time frame, and it's unfortunate that that did not happen. And it's one of those situations where it's hard, but based on the criteria and what we're right now sitting on and what we're voting on, it's really not addressing other components of what we should be addressing based off of, your situation. And so.
And that stuff,
And that's the difficult part.
Yep. And I know that will probably all come out at a later date, if it comes to that point. But as to Council Member Mortensen's point too, along Highway 66 there's also another, and there's houses around that area, and there's truck traffic and everything that goes in and out of there. Like I said, totally sympathize, and I'm not discrediting anything they said, and it's unfortunate that whoever sold that to you did not disclose any of it. That would have been, that should have been the first thing that should have been done. But as far as the annexation part of it, since we're only looking at that, they do meet the criteria of it. And moving forward, if it comes to that, then I would really hope that the possible developer would be, a good steward and, work with people in that area if it comes to that. So, any other additional?
Just one more comment. I do believe that this annex is approved, that we will be, because of the additional truck traffic, probably, and with Mountain Treks, the city will be forced to get that finished up. And I think there was an agreement with Mountain Treks that we would, when the traffic got to a certain point, that would be paved.
Any other additional questions or comments? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Upon review of the criteria for approval found in Title 18 of the Municipal Code and Planning Commission's findings, I move to approve Resolution Number 31-2022 to annex 2 parcels of land associated with Mountain Cement property into the city of Evans. I further move to approve Ordinance Number 784-22, zoning the 2 parcels industrial I-3 on first reading and direct staff to change the official zoning map for the city of Evans upon final approval.
No second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the criteria for approval found in Title 18 of the Municipal Code and Planning Commission's finding. I moved, and also to approve resolution number 31-2022 to annex thus 2 parcels of land associated with Mountain Cement property into the city of Evans, and to also approve ordinance number 784-22 zoning the 2 parcels industrial I-3 on first reading and direct staff to change the official zoning map for the city of Evans upon final approval. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Clark,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Castle,
Nay.
Councilmember Spear,
Nay.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Mortensen,
Aye.
Councilmember Neal,
Aye.
Councilmember Providence.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-2. All right. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, public hearing. Consideration of resolution number 35-2022, approving a special use permit request for an intensive recreation facility located at 11112 40th Street, Rush Event Center. I open a public hearing here from staff.
Yes, Mayor and council members, this is the next step in the consideration of approval for the new land use proposed at 1112 40th Street, known as the Rush Event Center. It's just taking over that parcel that has been the long abandoned go-kart track and event center there. What's before you, it would approve a special use permit application for that property. And I'll turn this discussion over to our new senior planner, Angela Snyder. I believe this may be her first discussion in front of you. We welcome her. While she's new to Evans, she is not new to planning and been a wonderful addition to staff.
Good evening, council members. Angela Snyder, Community Development. As stated, the request is for a special use permit for an intensive recreation facility. The applicant is Ron Harper. The property owner is Tebow Partnership LLP. The property is located at 1112 40th Street on the southwest corner of 40th Street and West Service Road, just west of Highway 85. The request includes 2 adjacent lots that you can see outlined in blue. The Evans Master Plan designates this area for commercial use. It's circled with black. This is consistent with the use of the property for an amusement facility or an intensive recreation facility as requested. The request contemplates the addition of a beer garden and an event facility to the existing go-kart and drift tricycle track and putt-putt golf course. Bumper boats, batting cages, and ropes course are future possibilities included in the current request. The commercial property has been vacant for several years. Redevelopment of this site will result in the realization of sales tax in addition to the commercial property tax. The site is served by utilities already. Furthermore, the site is highly visible along Highway 85. Landscaping is being added and replaced as part of this redevelopment proposal. The renewal of the amusement and event facility will encourage other nearby renewal opportunities as well. This slide here shows the proposed added landscaping. The dots that you see are native grasses, much of which is already there, but there's some extra plantings that'll be along the highway and then along 40th Street. Here's a picture of it from the ground. So, Section 18660F of the Municipal Code identifies the process and procedures that an applicant must follow seeking approval of the special use permit. So let the record reflect that staff has followed the process as detailed on the current slide, including pre-application, application, public notice, and public hearings. There are 7 applicable criteria for which the applicant is required to demonstrate compliance in order to receive approval. The Planning Commission at the September 27th meeting voted unanimously to recommend a conditional approval of the request. The Commission also recommended adding the following development standard: that food trucks with an up-to-date Weld County Public Health and Environment permit are allowed with the special use permit as long as adequate parking is provided for patrons. The full list of conditions are found in your resolution, but they did ask that to be added, and so I don't believe that is in the resolution. So if we want to add the ability to have food trucks, that would need to be part of your motion. The benefit of that is that they would not have to come to the city every time they wanted to have a food truck, because they would be having events often, and that way they could just have food trucks anytime they wanted. There are the 7 criteria that are in front of you, and the Planning Commission did find that it met all of that criteria. So, and staff agreed with them. So there's the language. I knew it was in there. Okay. So staff and the Planning Commission recommended approval, and that's the end of our presentation, and the applicant is present.
Thank you. Any questions for staff or the applicant regarding this?
No question. I have a question
Yeah, go
about the food truck. How do we designate a food truck for an event versus a permanently located food truck? I do know that we have some food trucks that have taken up residence at certain locations throughout the city. So, is that going to be a permanent food truck, or just for an event, and how do we get that specified?
That's a good question. Right now, there are a few locations where food trucks are often in town, but they do come to the city every single event. So, and we have to approve their temporary use. It's administratively approved, but we have to do it every single time.
So the food trucks that are at a certain, let's say, gas station permanently set up there, they've come to you guys, to the city?
Yeah, you answered that. I will defer to our director on that.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you, members of council. So a food truck license is an administrative permit in the city of Evans, and they are able to be at locations a certain period of time. They could be at a site several days out of the year. They do come with us and they let us know when they're submitting their application, how frequently they're going to be at a particular location.
Okay.
So that is
So
allowed.
that's what you're hoping for in this situation, because I'm just saying in other situations, that's not what's happening. They're permanently set up there. They don't move, they're just permanently set up there. So we're anticipating in this situation that when there's an event, we're going to say a food truck can come in, but it won't be permanently set up there.
I believe that's the intention, but please do ask the applicant for clarifying questions. It was my understanding that they would, maybe whoever's hosting the event at the facility would choose which food trucks they wanted, and then we would just require that they had their City of Evans business license and that they had an up-to-date food establishment license from the county.
Okay, and the applicant was here?
The applicant is here.
And is that what is planned with this food
Come
truck?
on up, sir. Come on up.
Hello.
Hello.
Evening.
Greetings. So the food trucks are just going to be directly related to an event. They're not going to be permanently parked there, and there'll be several events that will happen without food trucks. It's just strictly on what will fit what we're trying to do or someone else wants to do. But the way I vision it right now is it's going to be basically, we're going to try to sponsor 4 events a month. something like that for various reasons, you know, cornhole tournaments or some charity thing or something we may be able to plug into. But during those times is when the food trucks will be there. So I don't expect them to be there for more than a weekend, you know, a Friday, Saturday thing or a Thursday, Friday, Saturday thing or Sunday maybe. But yeah, not on a permanent basis at all.
And so, and I'm sure other people have questions, but so while you're up here, would you explain what your beer garden visualization is? I just kind of, I've gone from this being kind of a remake of a family-oriented place of putt-putting and driving go-karts and maybe having birthday parties, so now we're having, you know, a beer fest. So what's the change
You're
in the vision?
you're invited too. No. What we're going to do is, if you look at it this way, the event center is going to be a standalone. We're going to separate the two basically. The event center will stand on its own. It'll be actually fenced off, and it'll have a gate that will separate itself from the amusement side. So if there are events, that's the event. If the event or the person wants to rent the whole facility, then that's a whole different deal. But typically speaking, the event center will stand on its own. It'll be its own entity, and the amusement park will be its own entity. The entrance to the go-kart track and the amusements are going to be more on the east side. We're going to create a new entrance there. And then the event center entrance will be through the front center building as it stands right now. So if, you know, that's the theory. You know, there'll be, most of the time, the gate will be closed, the event center will stand on its own. So when you talk to beer garden, I guess the vision of that would be, it would fall into, for an example, we decide that we're going to sponsor an event, we're going to bring in some live music, local band or some type of music like that. That will be the event center side. You know, it's not going to be necessarily mixed in with the amusement side. It's just be a standalone event. And during that time, the beer garden will be open where, you know, we'll have fire pits, cornhole, you know, some of the backyard games that you know, that are out there, as well as just sitting around and hanging out, listening to music. That's basically what that would entail.
Thank you.
Any other questions from staff or the applicant?
So I'm thinking when I think of like a beer garden, kind of like an outdoor patio of like a brewery in a sense, very kind of low key, just kind of, you know, family oriented and hanging out.
Yeah. AstroTurf.
I have a question for you, sir. Good evening. Based upon the events you're having, are you planning to advertise along the highway, like different events you're having? Because I know it's just the fences that separate you from the highway. So upon you having that event, would it be advertised so adjacent the highway for that particular event? Would you have signs up, any advertisements?
Haven't really crossed that bridge. We've got the big sign on the east side right now.
Yes.
It's over there. We're going to continue the use of that sign. You know, we're not going to change the structure of it, but we're going to update it. It'll be getting painted here this week. We've got the sign should go up probably next week to kind of get a notification out there. But there's two signs: a larger sign on top and a smaller one on the bottom. And the bottom one will probably have the information of what's happening at the event center or the amusement park at different times. As far as the banners on the fence, I don't know what's allowed, but you know, we'd cross that bridge and run that through the powers that be, what we need to do there to get people's attention.
Thank you.
Any other additional questions? All right, because this is a public hearing, I would ask anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of this, please come up to the podium, state your name, and make your comments. Hello, Ms. Jennifer.
Good evening. I am Jennifer with the Evans Area Chamber of Commerce, Jennifer McRae. And we at the Chamber are very much in favor of this event center. We know that we need some more events happening and tax dollars and businesses coming into Evans. So being a lifelong resident of the area, I would love to see this utilized and opened back up as an event center and a family fun center. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak against this item? If so, please come forward. And none, and none, I will close the public hearing, and any comments?
I think, personally, I think this is fantastic. I always kind of chuckle because the original, I'll say the OG golf course, whatever place was, my husband worked at when he was a teenager, and he's old enough that was many decades ago. So I think, so am I. I'm just saying, but it was. So I think, but we drive past there often, and we continually comment about how nice it would be to have something. We have 2 little boys. Anytime we go on vacation, we hit up a place like this, and we've always said that defines our vacation when we can go play putt-putt or, go on the go-kart. So I think having this here locally, that if I want to have a birthday party for my kiddos or something, we have that option in Evans, is really fantastic. I do also really like the idea of tacking on an event center. I think there are places whereby you can go get food truck and do those sorts of things. Oftentimes they are at a brewery. I myself am, not a drinker, so sometimes it's difficult when everybody else is drinking and I'm like, oh, just stick with my water or whatever. So it's nice to have that option that it's not just a brewery, but it really is that kind of family atmosphere that I can go, the kids can have fun, we can enjoy live music. And then there is the option to have that beer garden for those that choose to. I'm totally in favor and really appreciate you bringing this to the city.
I'm also excited. And I like the fact that you are also separating the event center because it serves dual purpose. Granted, unless someone comes in and rents the whole thing out, which would be great for you. Yes. But I do like that, and I think this is definitely will help the area. It will also bring in people, allow them to stop, because it's like they say 85 is a drive-through, highway, and so at least they'll have a stopping point or see that as they go, through the city and say, hey, we should do this. But for me, it's a family place. In Evans, the median age here is like 29, 30, and so a lot of people here have young families. And so to have a place like this to take children, young children, I have young children, would be fantastic instead of having to travel, a ways, which I tend not to do. So I am excited for you, and I'm excited that you, chose to do this in Evans. We definitely welcome that, and thank you. And I'm excited for the beer garden too. I think that's great. And the food trucks. I think, it's a family event, area. So I think we all need a place where we can hang locally and we can actually walk home.
I don't have anything to add on what's already said, other than please make sure you keep the batting cages. I hope you do.
Yeah, it's really
Oh, yes.
So, any other comments?
I just want to say I'm tentatively optimistic. I've been here when it was operational before. I'm kind of a little cautious about a beer garden right next to a family funplex. There's people that maybe like to get inebriated a little bit too much and, cause some trouble. That's everywhere. So when you add the beer into it, it really kind of turns it from a family thing to, maybe some things to just keep an eye out for. So.
Can you clarify something on that then?
Yes.
Okay, so we have all that thought out. So people are gonna have bracelets when they come up to order a beer. They have to show their ID, they have to show their bracelet. 3 punches and you're not in the amusement park.
Oh.
So
that's
we have
awesome.
things
Okay.
thought out.
Perfect.
We can't for insurance reasons.
Great. That's a
So
good idea.
it's gonna be, we thought everything out.
Oh, perfect.
That's
So-
great.
I'm wishing you guys luck, and I hope everything goes as planned.
Okay.
Thank
We
you.
definitely do.
Grand opening.
Okay.
Right.
I'll be there.
Nice.
Before you go, ma'am,
Go ahead.
while you're up here, let me present this. Are you planning to have something seasonal?
Comments, not questions.
Comments?
We already did questions.
Okay, I just wrong. All right, I'll save this one today.
He's getting acclimated.
I'll save this for another time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. If there is no other comments, I would entertain a motion.
Upon review, oh, I'm reading the wrong one.
No.
Who's next?
No, you're right.
I was right?
Yeah, you're right.
Hey, all right. Sorry. Sorry, y'all. No, I have not been drinking.
And if you want to add the food truck,
Yeah, it's what the doctor ordered.
make sure you have the food truck.
Okay, all right. Upon review of the criteria for approval found in Title 18 of the Municipal Code and Planning Commission's findings, I move to approve resolution number 35-2022 with the suggested conditions of approval and the amendment to have the ability to have food trucks and development standards as proposed.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 35-2022 with suggested conditions of approval to allow food trucks as amended as part of the development standard as proposed. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just think, they don't have to put the speed signs on that. Or if they do, Mark
They
can
do.
fix them.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Next item on the agenda, item number 5, consideration of resolution, a public hearing, consideration of resolution number 28-2022 to approve special use permit request for outdoor storage in excess of 10% lot coverage in various industrial land uses located at 4625 Industrial Parkway. I will open the public hearing and we will hear from staff.
Yes, Mayor and council members, as you know, our land use code limits outdoor storage to 10% lot coverage without a special use permit. What's before you is an application for such a permit that would allow up to 44.5% of the site at 4625 Industrial Parkway to be used for storage along with other uses on that site. Angela Snyder, our senior planner, is here to further describe this application.
Good evening, council members. Angela Snyder, Community Development. As stated, the request is for a special use permit for exceeding the lot coverage for outdoor storage. Maybe?
Sorry, give me 1 second. It's not.
The property is located in blue at 4625 Industrial Parkway, just north of Brantner. The property is zoned I-1 Light Industrial, and the Evans Master Plan designates this area for industrial use. The request is for the property to be used as industrial flex space, which could include industrial uses, office and financial uses, manufacturing, assembling, RV storage, repair shop, retail uses, and extensive retail uses and or warehouse uses. Only the potential use of more than 10% of the property requires the approval of a special use permit. That is why the other uses not requiring the special use permit are not specified in the request language. So rather than requiring 2 land use applications, the city has agreed to review all the requests through the most restrictive process, which is this special use permit process. The administratively approved uses that they've requested will be shown on the recorded special use permit plan if you approve it here tonight, or we would still show them on a separately recorded site plan if their request for outdoor storage is denied. And just for your information, I put up on the screen here the uses allowed in the I-1 zone district. The uses on the left require your approval. The uses on the right can be approved administratively. If they would like to do anything on this site that's not included on this list, they would have to come before you with a change of zone request, and then they would have to justify that because everything in this area is zoned I-1, so it'd be a hard sell, but it would be on them to try to convince you why they needed to change the zone. Here's a picture of the site. They have a lot of commercial, or had, right now they're in between tenants and getting their land use approval to exceed the outdoor storage. But there is a building, and then there's a lot, and then it also includes the property to the south that's currently vacant. It's one continuous lot. and this request would allow them to expand into that vacant lot. Section 18660F shows the process for a special use permit, including the pre-application meetings, the application, public notice, and public hearings. Let the record reflect that staff has followed this process as detailed on the current slide. There are 8 applicable criteria for this case for which the applicant is required to demonstrate compliance to receive the approval. The 7 that are shown here you're used to, but M is the 8th criteria, which is specific to outdoor storage. So there are 5 extra provisions for outdoor storage. The first is that it come before you, number 1, reviewed through the special use permit process, so it has to be approved by the city council. Number 2, the maximum outdoor storage as a primary use shall be limited to 3 acres. So while this site isn't 3 acres, it's not a problem. But if it were a larger site, the outdoor storage in I-1 can't exceed 3 acres. And that's why we have those higher industrial zone districts that allow more. The third one is that the special use permit approval shall be for terms no longer than 5 years. Any extension beyond 5 years shall require a new special use review application and review process. This has been viewed by the applicant as risky business, because they're getting this approval for you and then they're going to get a tenant in, and their approval's only good for 5 years. They have to come back before you and ask again every 5 years if they can keep the outdoor storage. So the Planning Commission at their hearing made an extra recommendation to the City Council that you would consider removing M3 from the code. That would be a separate action that would come to you on a different night, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that they were not in favor of that being in our code. The fourth one is that design standards may be increased as a condition of approval, including but not limited to enhanced screening, landscaping, and limitations on height of material storage. Staff has taken it upon ourselves, using our design standards in the code, to ask for all outdoor storage to be screened because of it being light industrial zone district. We have also asked for the normal landscaping requirements along Industrial Parkway and throughout the site. We have not asked for any limitations on the height of material storage, but as a council, it is in your right if you would like to ask any more screening, to ask for them to do more screening, landscaping, or limitations on height of that storage. And then number 5, it got cut off, and I do apologize, but it just says that it is vested, so it transfers with property. If they were to sell the property, the permit would go with it. So the Planning Commission has the conditions that you see on the screen on the permit. With their recommendation, they asked for a site improvements agreement. They asked for minor technical revisions to the site plan, including that it be black and white, and some minor changes. They also asked that our development standards be placed on that site plan before it's recorded. They asked that then the site plan be submitted for recording, and then there's a couple of other conditions that are standard that go with the special use permit, addressing validity, constitutionality, and then addressing repeal of any previous approvals that would conflict with this approval. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant here is present.
Great, thank you. Is there any questions of the staff and or the applicant?
I have a few. What warranted this request? Meaning, what exactly are we looking at for storage here?
I believe if you're asking about the specific tenant, I would ask the applicant when they come up. But what triggered the site plan or the special use permit is that request to expand the outdoor storage beyond what was allowed in the I-1.
Yeah, I would love to hear that from the applicant if
Yeah.
possible.
Please step up, sir, and ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Eric Warnsman with Warnsman Engineering and Land Development, 1011 42nd Street, Evans. I have Lisa Payway, the owner of the property, here with me tonight. If we get any tough questions I can't get to, so we'll get her in back. So Lisa has had several tenants in the past that have requested outdoor storage or needed outdoor storage to be able to lease her property. This property was originally developed about 2003, I think. Angela could help me out with that if we need to, but that was prior to the land use application process in Evans where they just applied for a building permit. So now we're in the new code, so to be able to occupy this correctly, we need to have a land use permit go with the property, and with that, we need we're applying for the special use permit to be able to expand the storage to open it up for more tenants. We don't have a tenant yet, but she's lost 3 already because we didn't have a big enough storage area for that. So we're trying to be proactive with all this, get it ready to go so that she can say, yes, we can provide this amount of storage, and Evans is already happy with us for getting that approved.
Okay, so in my head, I'm envisioning, I think of clients I had that were lumber yards and they had lumber storage outside, like that sort of thing that is perhaps more appealing to the eye. What I don't want to see, and what I want to make sure this is prohibitive of, is more of like a junkyard. And I'm sure as the, one leasing this, you don't want to see that either, but that's my primary concern. So we really are limited here from those perspectives. Okay.
May I add that the tenants that have been prospectively looking this are typically oil field type semis, forklifts, loaders, that sort of thing, much like what you'd see right across the road on the Industrial Parkway.
That's very helpful. Thank you. I
You're
appreciate that. Additionally, one of the things that makes me cringe a little bit is that the special use permit transfers upon sale. I actually don't mind if we know it's we understand what you're saying. I totally get that. But if that sells to somebody that perhaps doesn't have the same thought and then transitions it to something that perhaps isn't what we had envisioned upon this, is there any way to limit that piece of it? So upon sale, they would have to reapply? We can limit that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a special use permit, so you can put the conditions on it that you see fit. The 5-year limit is a maximum. Sometimes special use permits you put in for a year to just see how they're going, and then you come back. But you can also put in a provision that if it's sold, that it comes back to you for approval.
Okay. Okay. For me, that would be great. And then the 5-year limit, if we were to approve this, that would only be specific to this special use permit and not all special use permits? Or are we saying we want to remove that from the code totally?
The Planning Commission requested that it be removed from the code completely because they were hearing from the applicant how hard it had been to find a tenant, that would be willing to have the risk that in 5 years they might not have the ability to be there.
Yeah, and this for me is really difficult because I can look at it and say, well, gosh, let's just keep it. If it's a good tenant, it should be renewed. But my term isn't 5 years. So I do understand that to a point. Also, that constraint to say, well, gosh, does it really make sense to have a 5-year term when this council more than likely won't be seated in, at least the majority of us will not be seated in 5 years. Term limited, I'm saying, not, we're amazing, of course, if we can. But, okay, that does answer my questions. Thank you. Thanks for
May I
clarity.
speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, go for it.
Part of the special use permit requirements are some fairly large financial requirements, such as the additional fencing, landscaping. To get that established, you're probably looking at least a temporary irrigation system. I mean, it's a big financial outlay to get these things approved. And again, staff can probably speak to this better than I, but if you violate the conditions of your permit, they can pull it,
I see.
correct?
Yeah.
Yes,
Great.
and that's what I was going to speak to, is that, we have a whole compliance division, If something goes wrong, somebody calls in that a site is not compliant with their permit, we will hold them accountable. So
Okay.
that's why staff is not concerned about the 5-year rule.
That's very helpful. That's very helpful. And you're very knowledgeable. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I've been here a couple times.
You look familiar.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a
Any,
question.
yeah, go ahead.
And I have a question. You may know.
Go ahead.
In general, how long are the commercial leases? Let's say that the ones that were coming in, but then said no because of, the storage problems. How long would those leases possibly have been? Are they normally 24 months? Are they shorter, longer, month to month?
Lisa, 5 to 7 years, correct?
Yeah, with
Okay.
options beyond that.
Yeah, with options.
We're looking at.
Okay.
Which is why the 5-year is the concern.
Right,
I
because
see.
then we've got a tenant in there, and then all of a sudden, we gotta go get this permit for whatever reason. Now we've gotta move them out of there. It gets a little tough. One other side note, I would like to say that the whole development team with Evans is very enjoyable to work with, and I appreciate them very much.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think, kind of thinking about that 5-year, maybe like the condition that instead of 5 years, it's like the longevity of the lease, because then, versus if you were to have it like a newer, like tenant or maybe even a condition if that tenant.
So stop questions. Questions.
Okay.
Questions.
Before discussion.
No, I was just kind of curious if that was like the method, like, is that like kind of the reasoning behind it? Like if, for example, would that be like advantageous for you if it were just, like changing that verbiage in a way where on both ends, it seems
It would be
logical.
most comfortable to take that off, and then if we violated it, pull the permit.
Pull the permit.
That's the most comfortable, because then if we're doing everything the way we're supposed to do, we've got a tenant doing what they're supposed to do.
Right.
You guys aren't mad at us, and we aren't mad at you.
And I'd like that, just understanding that perspective, because for us, I mean, granted, we're on this side and you're on
Sure.
that side, so you know best, so
Right.
just really understanding that.
No, it's definitely within our best interest to keep everything on the up and up. Otherwise,
Right.
you're just asking for it.
Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
So I think historically.
Hold on, Councilman Neal.
Well, just as a point of clarification on the 5 years, you can't approve a special use permit for more than 5 years tonight, because your current code limits it to 5 years. You're in the process of looking at your land use code. And what a lot of land use codes say is they give you the flexibility to set a time period. Some of them even say it's for a certain period of time, and if there are no complaints, then it renews automatically. If there are complaints, then it comes back and forth in front of you when it's time for renewal. So when you get to looking at your land use code, kind of keep this discussion in mind, and you do have several options. But at this point, as long as that provision's in there, you can't approve it for more than 5 years. I was gonna give the bad news, so.
So if we approve and it changes, are they grandfathered in?
Well, I think you'd need to address that in the land use code. So when you do the new land use code, they'd be grandfathered in for 5 years, but if the desire of the new land use code is to allow for periods longer than that, you'd probably need to address that impact of the new code on existing SUPs.
Right,
okay,
makes sense.
Councilman Mears, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Historically, Evans has had problems with people that have leased in this area. And I think that's why most of the council is concerned about not being able to restrict it to 5 years. It's, if I remember right, it's generally not the property owner's fault. It's the tenant's fault with what they're storing on the property, and then you can't get it removed.
Questions?
Okay, sorry.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have questions for staff. Is the picture that you showed us current?
No. It is currently vacant right now, the site. But I'll show this. So this was from, I think this picture was maybe last year.
So is
Last
this
spring?
before or after is this the property that had some enforcement issues?
No.
That was gonna be my question.
Okay, because I do know that along here, there's a lot of heavy trucks that are parked along here, so I
Yes,
wanted
I
to
believe that
see if.
property is across the street.
Okay, so that was one of my questions, and then reading through this, there's a little bit of confusion between the outdoor storage request, and a lot of this is mentioning buildings being built. So are we looking for outdoor storage, or are we looking for building?
So the notes that will go on the special use permit, if you approve it today, also cover the administratively approved items, which would be all those uses on the right-hand side of the list. So that's why a lot of the development standards also mention building items. What's before you is only the outdoor storage expansion.
Okay, because it wasn't reading that it was only the outdoor storage. So there was a little bit of confusion as to whether we were looking for outdoor storage or for buildings. And then I also want to see, and I did not get as far into that as to limit the, to see if there was a limit on the storage of hazardous material, and if they're looking to rent to people that have trucks. A lot of the trucks do have hazardous material, so I want to make sure that we don't have hazardous material being stored.
So actually in the industrial zone district, it's an allowed use. Let's see if I can get back to the site. So like flammable liquids, for example, is allowed. I don't know if hazardous is, so that is an allowed use without even a council approval. Where it gets enforced is on the building side, because when you start to store things like that, it changes the occupancy of the building. And then the building department requires that it be, they have secondary containment, or they have the proper, ventilation, or all the things that they need. That gets caught at building.
So I guess I have a little bit of an issue, not with, in the future that we need to talk about. We have a meat processing facility right there, and we're gonna allow hazardous storage right next to it.
That is a good question for the council. If there's ever anything in the code that you're not comfortable with, that's something that you as the elected officials can
So,
do.
Just a side note. So anyways, thank you for answering my questions.
Any other additional questions? Because this is a public hearing, I would ask anybody in the audience that came in here to speak in favor of this, please come up to the podium, state your name. And if you are against it as well, please come up to the podium as well. Seeing none, and one, I will close the public hearing and council discussion or comments.
I think I had a lot of trepidation walking into this, but the applicant did an excellent job explaining things and articulating them, and staff was well prepared and able to answer those questions. My only concern really with approval is just ensuring that as council, we help to, peel out that 5-year provision to allow for that, because that is a concern I have now is, okay, we've done step 1, but if you're still limited on the ability to find a tenant for that, I want to make sure we're doing our due diligence. So I would like to request that staff bring that item for consideration sooner than later to help resolve such issues that we're seeing here today in whatever way we see fit. I think that would be great. But other than that, I am pleased with the applicant and the information you provided and in full support.
Same here as well. I know Councilmember Spear asked some of the questions I had concerns about as well, so those got addressed, which works for me. I'm in favor of it. My biggest concern wasn't this the property that we were talking about not too long ago that had the code enforcement issues, but I'm glad it wasn't, so I'm in favor. Anyone else? No, I would entertain a motion.
Upon review of the criteria for approval found in Title 18 of the Municipal Code and Planning Commission's findings, I move to approve resolution number 28-2022 to City Council with the suggested conditions of approval and development standards as proposed.
I second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 28-2022 to the City Council with the suggested conditions of approval and development standard as proposed? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda, item number 6, another public hearing, consideration of 2023 operating and capital budget, resolution number 27-2022, adopting the 2023 budget, and ordinance number 781-22, 2023 budget appropriations, and I will open the public hearing and hear from staff.
Mayor and council members, thank you for your previous direction at various work sessions on the revenue forecast, the capital improvement program, compensation and classification plan, and then most recently at your October 4th, 2022 work session, directing staff to return to you with this budget ordinance. The Finance Committee did review this on September 27th. So what's before you is a resolution to adopt the annual budget for 2023, as well as an ordinance to make the annual appropriations associated with it. I'd like to turn this over to Jackie Trout for a summary of what's before you this evening, and with great appreciation for her and her staff's work in bringing this together to you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Reedy. Good evening, Mayor Clark, members of City Council. And in addition to the resolution and ordinance tonight in your packet for consideration, there also is our draft budget book as well. This is also a product we're really pleased and proud of and happy to share with you. Happy to also have the entire finance team, one whole row in the back. They've worked extremely hard to get to this point, and as have the rest of staff, so much appreciation for their hard work to get us here. And I do want to just spend 1 second on the budget book, and then we'll walk through some summary information to remind you of what you're considering tonight. We do take a lot of pride in this budget book. It really is that illustrative document that we hope is a useful tool to understand our plan and how we'll get there for next year. We also submit it to, in addition to DOLA's required submittal, we post it to our website, we make it public as we can. We also submit it to the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association, which is a nationwide association that kind of sets some best practices for finance methodology, if you will. They've changed their criteria every year for a distinguished budget award. So we've been a recipient of this award for the last 4 years. Intend to submit this document again for year 5. And we'll be working on some additional key performance indicators and really bringing in some measurable deliverables to the departments along with the descriptions of the great things we do. So this document will be modified a little bit over the next few weeks as finance is able to lock down some of those goals and put that to words, but the numbers won't change. What you're considering tonight for the base budget and that information won't change. Really what we're going to do is try to make this as good as it can be for our goals. So wanted to leave you with that thought in case you open it up in a few weeks and you look on your website after it's approved and see something that maybe looks a few pages longer than what you're seeing tonight. So anyway, as a reminder of the information that you're considering tonight, staff's commitment to City Council was creating that budget that really was realistic, achievable, and sustainable. You know there's an emphasis in continuing to secure our workforce and prioritizing some of our highest capital needs. The budget is balanced for the 5-year, increasing costs only where necessary, and including a revenue budget that is also realistic and achievable and more of the expected. The general fund revenues do show a 3% increase over 2022 projected increase, and as a reminder of that 3%, 1% of that is our sales tax revenue increase. The only new items recommended to the budget tonight is just short of $75,000 of supply and services costs. We've talked about these in some detail, but as a reminder, those are contract costs for our Humane Society, additional neighborhood services program costs, as well as some IT services, additional integration with GIS and Laserfish that we think will be really beneficial for the city. Supplies and services overall is seeing an 8% increase over the 2022 budget. Again, increasing only where necessary. There isn't a blanket inflationary increase to department budgets for supplies and services. Rather, those items shown on the right are the reasons for that increase. Everything from utilities cost, fuel, ice slicer, additional dispatch costs for the police department, and building inspection costs. Personnel costs citywide in the 2023 budget is $13.7 million. And as a reminder, there is no additional position additions to the 2023 budget. While we did show at the last council meeting a list of about $1 million of identified needs today, I'm sure if we had updated that, it'd be even higher today. We're not recommending that be included in the 2023 budget as we're hearing increased cautionary tales of securing budgets for the unknown in the next 2 years. Although there are needs, staff isn't recommending that we fund those for this next year's budget. We are including classification and compensation recommendations and merit and police step increases per council's direction. We have included $120,000 of general fund asset management costs to replace things like gym equipment, gym curtain, flooring, and some carpeting spaces here in our rental areas of the complex, and the replacement of one construction inspector vehicle. For the 5-year future, as noted in the red square, 2023's budget is balanced with an excess or positive net result, if you will, of $557,000. All 5 years are balanced with excess revenue, and the ending fund balance is increasing each year because of that, from an ending in 2023 of $12.5 million, increasing annually to just over $15 million in 2027. Not only is the budget balanced with available fund balance each year and excess revenue, as a reminder of why you're holding those excess revenues, council had set the reserve requirement of 50% of the prior year operating expenditures. You are holding that for those reasons noted in green, in addition to funding that council is directed to set aside for police station construction and Highway 85 beautification. So you're comfortable in setting your reserves, the commitment, and still having available fund balance in addition to excess revenue for next year's starting budget. This gives council flexibility to address needs that might come up next year or respond to economic challenges that we may not currently know of. On the enterprise funds, water and wastewater are both showing an increase in cash balance from our 2022 projected to our 2023 budget. Those revenues are anticipated to exceed the expenses in both the water and wastewater fund for next year. In the storm drainage fund, that cash balance is projected to decrease next year because of those funds being held for capital projects. Our capital projects has also remained unchanged since council reviewed them in some detail. As a reminder, the total citywide for capital is just short of $41 million. And as you look at that citywide, what this means, this doesn't exclude ERA, but for all the city funds, everything in the others is all of our non-major governmental funds, so this does include everything. An ending fund balance of $40.7 million is what we anticipate in the 2023 year, and you'll notice that's obviously an increase over the beginning balance of 37.6. So revenues for next year citywide are exceeding our planned expenditures as well. That concludes staff comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
Nope. I have none. Nope.
All right, because this is a public hearing, I would ask anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of or against this, please come up to the podium, state your name. Stand online. I will close the public hearing, and any comments from council?
I think just overall, especially while we have the entire finance team here, just a big thank you for the depth of work. I think it feels like just yesterday we were approving the audit, and you guys got like 4 hours of breathing room before you started work on the 2020. Am I being generous there on the 2020 budget? I totally know how that goes. So I understand fully the depth of work that goes into this and the amount of time each of you individually put in. From a city's perspective, it's fantastic to have such qualified individuals performing this work, and I think that really shows in the number. Beyond that, I think for our staff in total, the amount of work that goes into collaborating and working together to ensure that this is really a balanced budget that we continue to hit year over year is something we should be extremely proud of. It is not an easy feat. And then it's a product of every individual whose fingerprints have touched this, which is vast. So job very well done. I'm very excited to see what the future holds, and I'm very thankful to have such amazing staff to help put this together. So well done.
I don't think anything else can be said.
I know.
Yeah, there's
I like
nothing else
that.
to say to that other than, you know.
Agree.
Agree. 100% agree.
Perfect.
All right.
So with that, I move to adopt resolution number 27-2022 and approve ordinance number 781-2022 on first reading.
I second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 27-2022 and approve ordinance number 781-22 on first reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Great.
Great job, great job. All right, moving on. Item number 7, consideration of resolution number 37-2022 to support an application for grant funding to the Crime Prevention through Safer Streets program, and we will hear from staff.
Yes, Mayor and council members, staff has done a good job of identifying this possible no-match state grant funding opportunity, kind of grants that we most like to see, are those no-match opportunities. This one is from the Colorado Division of Criminal Justice and the Department of Public Safety. It does allow for the installation of street lights in an area that staff and the police department have identified, particularly directly to the north of us, bounded by 37th Street, 11th Avenue, Highway 34, and Highway 85. Lieutenant Reamer is here to describe this further or answer any questions you might have. What we're soliciting tonight is your support in the form of a resolution that we can turn in along with the grant application.
Thank you. The grant is the Crime Prevention Through Safer Streets grant. There's just over $10 million in this grant awarded to local governments with specific criteria on what that money can be used for. There's been about 40 agencies submit an intent to apply already into that grant. Our thought process was to attack address the issues kind of in our motel area, that district area, the come and go, canteen vending, help out with the Immigration Refugee Center, the Montfort Health Clinic, and just trying to make that place a safer environment, and doing so by adding street lights to increase visibility, to increase safety and awareness in that corridor.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions, comments, staff?
I am for this. I think that it's definitely needed, especially in those areas, and not only that, it will help with any of the crimes that are happening in those vicinities.
Agreed,
Great.
100% approve on this.
Would this possibly be used for lighting along the West Service Road?
Yeah, so our project is scalable, so we're going to ask for a bunch of money. Hopefully they give it to us, but whatever they give us, we'll bring back down. And we have got some proposed sites of where we think those lights would be best useful, coming down south from Tri-Point, around Southgate, and then down. And if we can, we'll take it all the way down to 42nd. They just give us the money.
And I think whoever's helping you write the grant, and I'm sure it's probably Ann, right? I'm sure we'll probably.
Angela.
And Angela, we'll probably get the maximum
Allison.
amount of money that we can, so. I have no.
The A-team.
The A-team,
The
there you
A-team.
go.
Oh my gosh, let's do the A-team.
So I have no doubt we'll get a really good chunk of that grant, so.
Yes.
Yes, so. Any other questions or comments?
No.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 37-2022 to demonstrate city council support of a grant application to the Crime Prevention Through Safer Streets program offered through the Colorado Division of Criminal Justice and Department of Public Safety, and authorize the mayor to sign the resolution.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 37-2022 to demonstrate the city council support of a grant application to the Crime Prevention Through Safer Street program and offered through the Colorado Division of Criminal Justice and the Department of Public Safety, and authorize the mayor to sign the resolution. All those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda, public hearing. Consideration of continuance of ordinance number 783-22, resolution number 29-2022, and resolution number 30-2022 for the Ariano annexation, change of zone, and special use permit application from October 18th to November 15th, 2022. We'll open the public hearing and we will hear from staff.
Yes, the continuance of this ordinance and two resolutions is at the request of the applicant. Give them more time to work on the details of the development agreement and the annexation agreement as they move forward here. They are requesting a continuance from tonight to November 15th, 2022.
Okay,
Any questions of staff?
I have none.
I have one quick one.
Okay, go ahead.
We keep continuing this, is it because, why do we keep continuing it? I know it says to review and look at, whatnot, but is there a reason it's taking this much time?
An ag pro specialist is a real estate, so. To tag onto your question, they're being asked to continue it from a real estate agent.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So
To answer the question, I just wanted to add on to that.
Yeah, so AgPro, they are realtors, they're also planners, they have survey team, and they have engineers on board as well. They do a lot of land use applications in Weld County. This site, as you may recall, is complicated. There are a lot of nonconformities. There are things the city is requesting that they perform, and they are just needing extra time to make sure that connection to sanitary sewer, for example, for all of those items, they fully understand the cost to perform that work. So they are just being very cautious, and they are moving forward. The first continuance is they didn't have enough time to notify the mineral owners, which is a requirement of state statute. And then this time, they're just wanting to make sure that the annexation agreement and the development agreement are mirrored. So they're very, very close. We've had several calls with them, their attorneys, their representatives, and our team as well, and they're very, very close.
So I guess my question to follow up on those two is November 15th enough time? Or should we maybe delay it until the first or second meeting in December? Because as mentioned, we have kicked us down the road quite a few times. I just want to make sure that we are granting them enough time, and if we don't see that November 15th is that time, would it be appropriate for us to move it to maybe the first or second meeting in December, just to give them the time allotted?
In our last call with them, they indicated, they're just working on one issue. And they said that one issue they believe can be managed by November 15th.
Great. Any other additional questions? Okay, because this is a public hearing, I would ask anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor or against this to come up to the podium. State your name, stand out online. I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion, unless there's any comments.
I move to approve the applicant's request for a continuance of the public hearings for ordinance number 783-22, resolution number 29-2022, and resolution number 30-2022 to consider the Arellano annexation, change of zone, and special use permit to November 15th, 2022.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the applicant's request for a continuance of the public hearings for ordinance number 783-22, resolution number 29-2022, and resolution number 30-2022 to consider the Ariano annexation change of zone and special use permit to November 15th, 2022. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth?
All right, moving on. Reports. City manager.
Just a couple quick items this evening. We are helping the county to get the public information out about an electronic waste recycling event that we always get questions about during the spring and fall cleanups. This one is happening actually this week, Saturday, October 22nd, from 8 to 1 at Island Grove in that grandstand arena south parking lot. If people are bringing a lot of old TVs, laptops, telephones, that sort of thing, they are requesting or suggesting that you make an appointment to get right in. Otherwise, you can show up anytime between 8 and 1, October 22nd out at Island Grove. Like I say, this complements nicely our cleanup event. We are unable to take a lot of these items, and it's great that the county is following up with that. The only other item I have is that just a reminder to please let Julie Kampka know if you will be attending the city-county dinner next Thursday, October 27th. That's at 6 p.m. out at the county admin building on O Street. So she does need to RSVP for you if it's your intent to attend.
And if you have not gone before and you decide to go, it's a great event. You can also bring your spouse or significant other. So I would highly encourage you to go if you can.
Can you remind me of the day of that one more time? Sorry.
It's a week from Thursday, October 27th.
It's a Thursday.
Okay.
It's a
6
Thursday.
o'clock.
I thought that's what you said. Thank you.
Great, thank you. City attorney.
Just two quick items. Mostly we've been busy keeping up with staff and all the land use applications that you saw tonight. And then the other item is I will not be here for the next meeting, so you'll be left in the capable hands of the Assistant City Attorney, Drew Lyon. That's all I've got.
Awesome, great, thank you. Next item on the agenda, audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address City Council on any item? Seeing none, meeting adjourned. We'll take a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll move right into the ERA agenda here, so everybody can grab a snack or whatever.
Yeah, I might thank you real quick. I sent Jason like a corpse, and it was like,
I
I'm
know.
so hungry. I normally go home beforehand, but I had a client call me literally as I was walking out the front right now. I'm like, I want to.
That's always how it happens.
Yeah.